Today, voters in 6 states will cast their ballots in several primary races. We can show them to you on the screen. They stretch from Wisconsin to Minnesota, Vermont, Connecticut, Alabama, and South Carolina. Let's go through some of the races you want to keep your eyes on. South Carolina's special primary will narrow the contest for Lindsey Graham's Senate seat. Right now, his sister Darlene is seeking a full term. She has the endorsement of President Trump and says she's ready to get to work.
I'm not getting into it for self-ambition, power, or anything like that. I'm still grieving my brother. It would be a lot easier for me just to stay at home and sit on my couch and focus on my kids. But I want to serve the people of South Carolina. I know what that meant to Lindsey, and it means a lot to me.
Two sides of the Democratic Party are facing off in Minnesota today. It's a contentious Senate race between moderate Congresswoman Angie Craig and progressive Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. It's a similar story in Wisconsin's gubernatorial primary. Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong is hoping to clinch the party's nomination, but other traditional Democrats are also in the running. We've got team coverage for you on this. CBS News congressional reporter Taurean is in Milwaukee this morning. But let's begin with CBS News political director Gómez, who's in our D.C. bureau for us. Finn, good morning to you. Quite a day for you ahead. President Trump participated in a tele-rally for Senator Darlene Graham last night. Is this her race to lose, essentially?
Happy Election Day, Errol. That's right. Look, in speaking with Senate and South Carolina Republicans over the last few days, they tell me that Darlene Graham comes into Election Day with momentum and some serious advantages here. She is, of course, as you mentioned, the sitting senator. She carries the Graham name, a big one in South Carolina, of course. After her brother, the Senate lion, who passed away suddenly last month, many in the Republican Party in South Carolina told me that she doesn't have this political baggage. She's a political newcomer. She was a longtime advocate for people with disabilities. And I think that sort of helps her in a climate where outside candidates have been really a major factor here. And I think also there's empathy. There's an empathy factor, I've been told by some Republicans in the state, obviously following the death of her brother. But then that could ultimately be a factor that could support, that could help voters who are maybe on the bubble of supporting her candidacy. She also has President Trump's backing. He's firmly behind her. Trump made that clear again last night, as you mentioned, calling into that tele-rally, describing Graham as, quote, the gold standard. So it's also a test here of Trump's endorsement power, Errol. The president has put his political capital behind getting her through this primary. But the big question now is whether she can clear 50%. That's not what we've been tracking in some of the limited polling that we've seen. This is a crowded special election. And if nobody gets that majority, the two top candidates then head to that runoff on August 25th.
Yeah,
Errol.
Voters there still getting to know the late senator's sister. Let's switch to the other side of the aisle. The progressive candidate for U.S. Senate in Minnesota says the establishment candidates are just out of touch with voters. Our Jonathan Kaplan spoke with both of the frontrunners yesterday. Let's quickly listen to that.
The Washington establishment is really disconnected from what's happening in the lives of Minnesotans and of Americans. They want bold fighters and folks who are willing to throw down for the things that actually impact their lives. I think governing by sternly worded letter, we're done with that.
The Democratic Party is figuring out what it wants. We don't pass any progressive policies if we don't win elections. I know I will beat Michelle Tafoya. I'm not so sure about the lieutenant governor.
And Finn, our viewers may not be aware that a Republican hasn't won a statewide race in Minnesota in 2 decades. So what are Democrats watching out for today?
Yeah, 2006. I think it's another test here of a narrative we've been seeing all cycle long, and that is like which direction the Democratic Party wants to go in. Just 1 week after Abdul El-Sayed's big progressive victory in Michigan, Peggy Flanagan is essentially making the argument you just heard. Democrats need a more confrontational, progressive approach, and voters are tired of the Washington establishment, frankly. And Angie Craig is essentially saying that Democrats can't enact any of their agenda unless they win, and she points to her record of repeatedly winning in a competitive congressional purple district, if you will. And I think that electability debate matters here because Democrats don't want to take Minnesota for granted, I've been told. I mean, Republicans haven't won since 2006, as you said, Errol, since you were like 4 years old, I'm assuming. But the likely Republican nominee, Michelle Tafoya, former NFL sideline reporter, she's got significant name ID, not just in the state, but nationally, and has argued that she can make the state competitive. And so I think they are, as Craig mentioned there, keeping an eye on her and how much money she can raise. So after this bruising primary, the victor will then have to turn and face her. So it's not going to be an easy path to November here.
Yeah, we're going to continue to look at that. And just for the record, Finn, I was born when DVDs were created, okay? I'll let our viewers figure out
when
that was.
That's right.
Finn Gómez in D.C., thank you so much, brother.
You look great, man. Look great for your
All right, you too, you too. Let's jump to Wisconsin, where there's another fight between establishment Democrats and progressives. Taurean Small is there following primary races for governor. Taurean, good morning to you. Not sure what year you were born, but don't worry about it. We're not going to analyze everyone in this episode. What are you watching out for there today?
Yeah, I think what's been interesting to Democrats, we spoke to quite a few voters yesterday about just how dizzying this primary has been. It's been both crowded and chaotic on the Democratic gubernatorial side, considering a number of the top candidates dropped out right after early voting started. And a Wisconsin Supreme Court decision ruled that those votes that had already been casted, those absentee ballots, can't be spoiled. So those are votes, more than 100,000 that can't go to the candidates still in the running. I think what we're watching is the top of the ticket. We got two notable candidates here that are running for that first place, but who's been edging out in front has been Francesca Hong, a state representative and a Democratic socialist. She's been the center of quite a few attack ads from Republicans saying that she's moving too far to the left. We caught up with Representative Tom Tiffany, the presumptive Republican nominee in this race, who's out campaigning with former Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin yesterday. And this is what he had to say about the prospect of going up against Hong in November.
She's a classic downtown Madison liberal who has taken on the socialist imprimatur, and I just don't think Wisconsin's ready for that. I think you're going to see more Democrats that are now going to vote for Republicans because they're like, that is not the party I remember.
Hong is set to cast her vote in this race later in the hour here at Christ Presbyterian Church in Madison. But we also caught up with David Crowley. He's a Milwaukee County executive who received the endorsement from the current governor, Tony Evers, and has been campaigning with him during these final hours. Crowley has avoided attacking Hong, saying that he would rather extend that big tent even to those far-left progressives as part of his campaign strategy to build a wide coalition for November. But I got to point out the fact, if Hong were to secure the nomination tonight, November could be a test of whether or not a purple state like Wisconsin is open to the political polls or extreme polls like the House Freedom Caucus member in Tiffany and the Democratic Socialist candidate in Hong, Errol.
Yeah, fascinating to watch this play out across the country. And I just misspoke. I was born when CDs were invented. DVDs were a decade later. Taurean Small in Milwaukee. We'll keep watching your coverage today. Thank you so much.